everybody, it's Max with Crypto Talk Now. I want to show you a particular thing with Jasmy. You know, the news broke out about this late February, and you may feel as though it might be a little bit of a delay, but it's not quite that type of a video in regards to Jasmy. This is more of a deep dive to give some significance towards why some of these things are going to be part of this outline are so important to take note. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into that specifically. Now, I saw this on crypto Twitter and I said to myself, this was definitely a course worth sharing. Some of you guys are already aware of this. And it's just like you see right here. Jasmy Platinum Data Happiness Discovery Project, recruiting 10,000 participants worldwide. Now, I'm going to read this, and it states, Jasmy and Koozyt, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, is one of Japan's top AI technology companies, have launched the Platinum Data Happiness Discovery Project based on the KJ engine to realize the visualization of personal data value through PDL, personal data locker, and of course AI technology. Now, of course, we did that one particular video a while back in regards to Jasmy and AI. Had, for instance, John A5 on the particular thumbnail from the movie Short Circuit, right? But look at this. It says 10,000 participants will be recruited worldwide to join the project, who will receive Jasmy coin as reward. And when I looked more into this, I said to myself, well, you know, it's one thing to have this, but how would I actually go about this? You know, if I'm just an average Joe Schmo like anybody else out there, sounds really cool. How can you participate in this and so on? So I was trying to dig deeper into this. And when I got into it, I had to find out some more particular information because, as you know, it's one thing to get the Google Translate from Japanese and so on, but there's no real like a link to it and so on. So again, you know, it's kind of like digging deeper, if you will. So you may be wondering, why am I showing you guys this? I want to show you guys this because it mentions this other particular company, which is Koozyt, or again, I might probably not even pronounce it right, so I don't want to butcher it up too bad. But again, part of the research, no pun intended, from ResearchGate, they have this particular thing here that's mentioned, right? So this is a Wi-Fi scanner, right? And it's developed by Koozyt Inc. The name DF sensor is taken, like it says, from the words dwell and flow. It's based on the Raspberry Pi 2. I actually own a Raspberry Pi. But anyway, with a battery backup real time, and it just kind of gives an example and so on. So, but here's the key thing. Why would a company like this that has, like what you see right here with this particular Wi-Fi scanner, wants to get involved with a company like Jasmy? Well, you should probably have drawn your connection by now, especially if you've done more research in regards to Jasmy. If you haven't, that's all right. You know, if it's your first time watcher, we totally understand. But the reason for it is because of just that, data, right? And understanding that, you know, when it comes to Jasmy, the IoT connection, Internet of Things, this is a perfect example of that, right? So I just want to give a highlight to that. And if anything, I wanted to take more of a deeper dive into both, you know, this particular company, which is Koozyt. Again, I'm not pronouncing it right, but you know, there's various different outlets that gave more information in regards to Koozyt. So here's one particular one. All right. So, you know, I guess this is how you pronounce it, which is Koozyt. And it states that they basically use AI data analysis, casual analysis, and the future to analyze the real world that is visible, identifiable events, and real-time events, and the invisible but ideal form, the world of complex systems, and even the sky, which sounds kind of interesting in itself. They said that they hope to contribute to solving the problems that people, businesses, and society face in the world through technology called prediction. That in itself kind of sounds interesting. And then I said to myself, but that is kind of vague. I want to get more into it. So when I went and got more into it, I said to myself, wow, look at this particular image. And again, this is taken straight from the Koozyt site, and we do have an outline for you. But do you see something common here? And if you do, It's because you have seen some images that are very, very similar to the Jasmy model. Why would a company like Koozyt want to get involved with a company like Jasmy? Well, it simply makes sense. Here at Crypto Talk Now, we cover quant quite often. What's one key thing that stands out in regards to quant? Well, interoperability. But another thing that really stands out for quant is the whole idea that quant works in the background. They allow, for instance, 100 plus blockchains to be interoperable. Now, hear me out. I understand this is a Jasmy video, but the connection I want you to draw is the significance of how certain types of businesses work in the background. You know, Jasmy, of course, got some recent flood of like, oh, there's no real Toyota partnership. And we found out, we squashed that flood with providing info that it's a subsidiary, right? And that is a form of a partnership. So, Toyota's subsidiary, and for instance, the Sony subsidiary with Akashi, for instance, right? But when you see this, I mean, immediately think to myself, okay, you do see that there's some kind of form of data transfer going on here without even understanding this particular Japanese language. So when I show you guys this, I wanted to zoom out and provide you this. See, it's very, very similar. Here's the one from Jasmy in regards to stored, personal data lockers. We've seen these particular images before, right? And then, of course, again, when we jump back, you definitely see this. And, if anything, I wanted to get to the top of this and straight from the Koozyt site and so on. So in regards to Koozyt, I should say, that's, I guess, the right way to pronounce it. They connect empty and real, like I mentioned before, but the company name Koozyt is derived from the meaning of, quote, contributing to society by connecting empty and real. If so, there is a big gap between the exciting and sustainable lifestyle of the future and the challenges and pains of the real world today. In order to fill this gap, Koozyt will embody and accelerate the exciting value that will be passed on to the next generation with a delusion engine, which is like, what in the world is that? Now, I realize it's a Jasmy video, but again, it's important to understand, just like with any other project, whether it's quant, with having an IBM partnership or Oracle is a big one. This is a key player for Jasmy, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm bringing it up in this particular video. So it says it's the next generation with a delusion engine that is technology based on intellectual curiosity and delusion. And of course, a lot of this is in Japanese, but it says right here, and again, here's one of the aha moments. I'm going to go back to this real quick. Koozyt is the first spin-out venture that implements the technology developed. I wish it was just pause it there, but I can't do it. Developed by Sony CSL and Society. Now, again, what do we know when it comes to Jasmy specifically? You have former ex-Sony executives. Here's another person. I should say personal connection, but in reality, it is kind of a particular personal connection. Again, back to Sony. So it's kind of like, there's something there. So Sony Computer Science Laboratories, Inc., right? And of course, we could read more in regards to that, and we basically will. Let's pull that up for just a brief moment. So when I got more into this, I said to myself, okay, this was basically published June 21st, 2022. And again, they're the first spin-out venture from Sony CSL. But again, it's the whole, Sony thing. People were trying to say there is no Sony connection. Sony will never get involved. But then when you see this, it's like, well, there is some type of involvement here, right? And, it gets more and more into these particular things. About, like, for instance, their vision of a future society, like it says right here, in which people in technology, it's kind of typed twice because it's from, the Japanese to English translation, so I do apologize. But it says, and technology fuse, networks and their capabilities that are expanded, complementary, and so on. What are the memorable episodes from once it was founded? There's a breakdown of this and so on. But the key takeaway is what they have with the Wi-Fi, right? With their particular devices and so on. This is a perfect example without even taking too deep of a deep dive, because I mean, this is a Jasmy video, of understanding that a company like this that's part of Internet of Things, IoT, would definitely want to get involved with the likes of a Jasmy, for one, you already have a Sony connection, so these guys probably worked together at some point, but these are now different companies doing their own thing. But again, they keep coming together for one real world vision of accomplishing what? Data democratization. So when I see this particular statement here, let's see here. This is from Rick Emote. It says the reasons were, like there's a trial and error, but look at this. It says, there's this whole thing about taking a taxi, and it says, in the taxi, the car automatically wanders around. So I install a GPS and its Wi-Fi crawling device. Listen to this, right? Together in the taxi. The idea was the taxi drivers would crawl without doing anything in particular. But what's the key thing, right? GPS, data, Wi-Fi, right? Scraping a particular connection and so on. Try to, make that work and so on. So, maybe, Koozyt also has the idea that, look, we have this, we want to protect people's data. How we're going to get it done with this particular company called Jasmy. Also a Japanese-based company is Koozyt. I keep mispronouncing that. But anyway, so I wanted to point some of this out, right? And when I hit the back button on this, we go here and, again, Koozyt is a company that solves problems in the world with technology. Who are they also partnered up with? Right, Jasmy. But look what it says also. We make full use of their proprietary sensor technology and AI data analysis technology solutions to support the planning, development, and operation phases of new businesses and research and development support. I don't need to be a person that understands Japanese to kind of connect the dots here. I can see visuals and so on. There's other particular stories. They talk about some of these particular use cases and so on. But look at these key things here. That image is kind of going away in the bottom right. All those things connected. You got all these people, all these particular members. And speaking of which, remember we were talking about this whole thing about the delusion engine? Well, Koozyt has a unique and experienced team of engineers, mainly members specializing in location, space, knowledge, information, processing, AI, data science, user interface, and even, application development. Like it says, will think together about the dreams that they want to achieve and accompany them on how to turn ideas into shape. There's all these other particular things here, basically different types of people with different types of positions, and of course we can contact them. But when we get more and more into this, and I think this is important to do so, not to the point where I want to learn all the nitty gritty of their particular device, but look at this description, all right? And so kind of a little bit of a reiteration. They are basically a developer of prediction technology. Prediction technology, that sounds interesting in itself. And it's intended to serve industries associated with urban development, tourism, and sports promotion. So already you have the Sagan Tosu fan token. And that particular, if you saw the other particular video, it shows a drone flying over that particular stadium of Sagan Tosu, that particular soccer team in Japan. And so right there, it's like, okay, that would make sense that these guys would be partnered, Jasmy and, Koozyt, if I'm pronouncing it right. So the company's AI-based technology supports decision-making in solving problems, enabling people who can understand a highly complex system that involves various factors cannot easily be understood. With Jasmy, I imagine they can help get this done. Now, you may be wondering, well, where's their primary offices and so on? Well, here's some of the ones. Like it shows, basically, this is all Japanese-based, right? Tokyo, Japan. But when I got more into it, I also said to myself, well, these guys are what? Their primary industry, like you see right here, is consulting services, right? Business to business. Now, you may be new to some of these particular terms, and if anything, it's okay, right? Here at CTN, we like to provide not just the news, but educational content. So business to business, B2B, right, is a situation where one business makes commercial transaction with another. This typically occurs when, like you see here, a business is sourcing materials for the production process for output, For instance, food manufacturer procuring salt, or providing raw materials to the company that will produce output. Business needs the services of another for operational reasons, for instance, food, manufacturing, employing, accounting, um, so on and so forth, or even like business resells goods and services produced by others, retailers, so on and so forth, right? But the key thing is, from my key takeaway, was the whole concept of output, data output in the Jasmy connection. Now, when I was asking this whole thing of, or I should say asking, I asked ChatGPT, I said to myself, well, what the heck is this whole thing of this right here? You know, Platinum Data Happiness Discovery Project, recruiting 10,000 participants worldwide. Like, I would like to know more about that. Could Jasmy tell me more about that? Well, of course, this is from the Jasmy site, originally December 1st, 2022, only a few months ago, right? But states that there's these specific phases in regards to this particular project. So in the summer of 2022, as phase 1 and 2 of the project, the Platinum Data Happiness Discovery Project developed a prototype of an AI engine based utilizing the Jasmy Personal Data Locker, PDL. And basically speaking, that indicated that users would experience the happiness by index. And of course, there's a phase 3, which started, like it says, is a project that encouraged people to be quote unquote happy with appreciation from others through supporting Japanese culture. Platinum data is the most valuable data for indicating each individual's traits, which is accumulated daily. So you got to keep in mind, it's one thing to have technology, but when you have also something that's data to implement happiness through Japanese culture, I guess they take it to a whole other level, right? And if anything, on the surface, if I was just jumping in this video, I'd be like, I don't understand what in the world you mean. But look what it says on the project summary. The 3 principles of happiness proposed by an Australian psychologist, which is Alfred Adler, include self-acceptance, like loving oneself, confidence in others, trusting others. Think about integrity, being true to yourself, or I should say staying true to yourself, and then what? True to others. That's the definition literally of integrity. It says, and contribution to others, contributing to society and the world. The Japanese, they take a lot of pride in an honor system. They always have. So it says in phase 3 of the Platinum Data Happiness Discovery Project, they will focus on contribution to others. They would like to work with participants to preserve Japanese cultures, like I mentioned, food, clothing, housing, traditional crafts, culture, so on and so forth. They feel as though it might be going out of style, and they want to pass them on to the next generation. Now, when I get further into this, it talks about this whole thing in regards to Jasmy, what's provided from Jasmy. There's a particular project schedule and so on, but when we go into it, it states right here that you can vote for the proposal for what you want to support and so on. But it says they would like to invite more people to support the chosen proposal and start a support mission. Now, here's where you and I basically could come involved in regards to this. We, if we were approved, could earn rewards through tasks related to the chosen project, such as surveys, quizzes, and posting. It's not just, from my interpretation, only a local thing. When they mention key things like this, I'll reiterate it, 10,000 participants will be recruited worldwide to join the project, who will receive the Jasmy Corners reward. That is significant because, if anything, it gives you an idea that, well, if it was supposed to be a local-only thing, then it would have been listed as a local-only thing and not worldwide. So, like I mentioned, it's up to 10,000 nationwide. There's requirements for these particular participants. The applications, or I should say applicants, must be between 16 and 75 years old, as of December 1st, 2022, reside in Japan, and be able to access the internet using smartphones they use daily. Please note that the customer is responsible for internet fees and also other costs they're required to register for the Jasmy Personal Data Locker. So, you know what? I do got to go back on that. So, see, that's the one thing I guess that kind of upsets people sometimes when it comes to Jasmy, because it's just like I just mentioned the whole thing. It says worldwide, but in reality, there's the answer, right? So, I did have this prepared for you guys and so on beforehand, but I did miss that particular part. So, there is the answer. But still, one of the key things is the benefits for these participants. So I guess if you're living, the local Japanese area, or Japan, living in Japan, right? The benefits of the participants is that they will be able to earn 100 to thousands of what's referred to as DD points through various supports such as voting for proposals, surveys, quizzes, posting, etc., etc. Some projects may, be subject to a fee. But let's talk about these points. So 1,000 DD points will be offered to those who submit the proposal to support the particular Jasmy, Japanese culture, like it says, and whose proposal is verified and selected by Jasmy as a candidate for the poll. Further, 100,000 DD points will be given to those who proposal is chosen with the most votes in a poll, and based, of course, with some other factors. DD points will be available to be used in this project to support, and buy products related to chosen Japanese culture, and then they will announce the project details once they are decided. There's a little bit more in regards to this, in regards to Jasmy and so on. But here's the main thing I want to show you guys after that. So I went to this particular site. I think it's also the Jasmy site. And I was trying to find more information, not so much on Koozyt, because we talked about that, right? But it's kind of like what you see. Let me see real quick. I believe I have it right here. No, that's not it. Hold on a second. There's a whole thing. You know what? Where in the world is this thing? My bad. There it is. Sorry. I had my screen refresh and it put all my outline kind of like construed. So I apologize for that. Anyway, it came to here and I said, I want to get a particular outline on these dates, right? For this whole, I guess you could say, roadmap event. And of course, for the project itself, right, which is Platinum Data Happiness Discovery Project, I ran into this particular roadblock, right? No pun intended. So, I mean, yeah, I could read part of it, right? It says something about like something happened on January 18, 2023, but it's all in Japanese and they can't just copy this, right? So, hey, cool thing is what? ChatGPT. So, ChatGPT to the rescue. I did type in something there and I said to ChatGPT, I said, I need the quote project schedule and implementation outline that is shown here. And of course, it gave that particular link. And of course, it translated it into English and says, it had a great response. They give me the whole typical thing like, oh, this is before 2021. This is out of my bounds of an AI bot, but this is a constantly, improving, evolving AI, right, as we know. And I was impressed. I was like, all right, well, at least they're giving me something. So it says, sure, here's a translation of the project's, quote, schedule and implementation outline from the link I provided. It said project schedule implementation outline, project schedule, project launch March 1st, right? We're in that particular month. I believe we are, because here's the thing, all right? It says 20XX, but in reality, when we go to what we saw earlier, right? Where was that again? My bad. Yeah, I mean, right here, I mean, you can see this to me totally makes sense. I mean, if it says 12/22, and they originally introduced this December of 2022 in regards to, the whole thing of Platinum Data Happiness Discovery Project, right? Look at, this was basically originally introduced at that particular time. And just to double check that, I believe it's right here. Yeah, it is. So there's our proof, right? This is from the Medium page of Jasmy. So that's check. That makes sense. That adds up. And then the other thing says that, 1/18/2023. So my thing is like, okay, it would make sense it would be this year. Now, again, it's not 100%. But here's what it mentioned again from ChatGPT. So project launch March 1st. I imagine it's 2023. Again, I don't know. Design phase March 1st through the end of this particular month. I'm kind of going with that, right? It makes sense to be that. Development phase April 1st, hopefully 2023 to May 31st. Testing phase June 1st to June 30th. Implementation phase what you see there to July 1st to July 31st. Project completion, the end of July 31st, 2023, hopefully. And it says implementation outline, project objectives, develop a new management system for customer information, automate the management process for customer information, improve response time to customer inquiries, the project scope, develop a web-based system for managing customer information. I mean, again, you know, it's written in Japanese characters. I mean, unless you know Japanese, I didn't know what that said. So it says integrate with existing systems as necessary, develop a system for responding to customer inquiries in a timely manner. And then here's some other key takeaways. Detailed system design documents, user manuals and operation guides, a functioning system for managing customer information. And this is why I read a lot of this verbatim. So if you have a functioning system for managing customer information, to me that's like, okay, using an actual app, providing something of use. Again, the utility being used, a functioning system for responding to customer inquiries. And again, part of that particular quote unquote app, right? Assumptions and risks, all required information resources will be available as planned. Technical issues may arise during the development, could delay the particular project. They could list the particular name. They might just be Chat GPT. And then I did ask, I said, you have a year listed, listed as 20XX. Are you able to translate the year? Of course, ChatGPT says, no, I can't, basically do that. But you know what? Say what you want. It took literally what was on a screenshot from the site and not copying actual text like that, because anybody could just copy text like that. I wouldn't even have to ask ChatGPT. I would just basically just copy the text and put it on what? Google Translate, right? I mean, instead of doing this route. So I was impressed with ChatGPT in regards to that. Now, before we wrap up everything, I want to get to some specific areas of why, again, I feel so bullish on this, right? So it says, this is from Jasmy World. I guess you could say kind of like a fan page or, like a research page. So look at what it says right here in regards to Jasmy security. According to a survey of IBM 2018, with the popularization of Internet of Things and AI, the corporate expenditures related to personal information leakage was USD 3.86 million averagely throughout the world, with a growth of 6.4% over the last year. As long as the new mechanism is grounded in the current centralized network, its limitations of dealing with data will become visible when it comes to Internet of Things devices, generating enormous amount of data. We will provide a new option to complement the current centralized services with decentralization network interface that ensures security and trust, right? Really, really cool to see some of these things. Of course, I have some of this other things I'll share with you guys on another particular video, but it's important to recognize some of these specific things, right? Here is why I want to draw so much emphasis to some of these particular things. So this is the Jasmy white paper in English, right? And the reason why I pull this up is I actually saw Sean's video, Sean the Crypto Smith, and he was able to pull up a white paper in English. And I thought, oh, cool. Well, I wasn't able to do that before. So look what it says here. All right. And I got just to this key area in regards to the roadmap, right? But above that, real quick, is what I want to point out, and that's data marketplace. So, we understand that that's significant in itself. But, one of the things I definitely want to mention, it says, with the advent of the age of Internet of Things, like we were just talking about, our first business focus is the contact center service solution and development and sales of a PC for business. We will gradually expand the user base and amount of personal data that can be exchanged on the platform by providing various solutions to different industries. You're already seeing that, right? So, we gave you guys that particular example in regards to this company, Koozyt. I kind of had to go back just to double check I was pronouncing it right. But again, this is all in line with what? The white paper. Hence why people say, if you want to learn more about a particular crypto project, you have to read the white paper. Yeah, it gets boring, but when you get more into it, especially if you're passionate about, Jasmy, and you're like, man, there's something about Jasmy. Well, there is something about it, right? So here at CTN, we like to put emphasis on a few key things. And one of the key things is, for example, like with XDC, right? Hear me out. So with XDC, you also got to understand that they bring a lot to the table, if you will, when it comes to this saying basically goes of data, right? Not just Jasmy, but digital data is basically digital oil, right? And oil. I mean, everybody would have loved to have been able to have oil gushing out from their backyard and so on. They become millionaires and so on. But look what it says here in this particular white paper. So one characteristic of data is that unlike physical assets such as oil, it can be utilized by multiple parties at the same time. Data has no value to one person, may furthermore be of high value to another. We are convinced that an environment where data is produced and held by individuals can safely and fairly be used on the marketplace enables near infinite possibilities in the future. Jasmy's main utility layer is data democratization. When you have these particular connections to, the likes of this company, Koozyt, basically, and understand what they bring to the table with Internet of Things, IoT, it all makes sense. And then when we showed you in this outline that Sony connection, that just kills it for the FUDDers. So, if FUDDers want to come out and say, oh, there's no connection, boy, what a bunch of malarkey. Stop taking stuff off the surface. Take more of your own deep dive. And if anything, it is what it is. But yes, I totally agree. Near infinite possibilities, because once word gets around, throughout the country of Japan, that, there's this particular Internet of Things, IoT company, Koozyt, things are really working out well with them. Well, how is that? Well, there's this company called Jasmy. Well, what's that all about? Well, they provide data democratization. So instead of having a centralized authority that basically takes all of our Japanese citizens' data and basically, like Facebook, Amazon, Google, and so on, and the citizens have no right or no say to who gets that data. No. We are putting the power back into the hands of the citizens who we've data scraped, right? And give them particular options by doing what? Basically paying them in the form of Jasmy. Don't believe me? Again, check out more of Crypto Smith, Sean the Crypto Smith's last video. He did a very good job of outlining some of that in that particular deep dive. But anyway, let's get back to this real quick. It says, with the advent of the age of IoT, our first business focus is the contact center service solution and development and sales of PC for business. We will gradually expand the user base and amount of personal data that can be exchanged on the platform by providing various solutions to different industries. In particular, since the demand for real-time data through IoT devices accumulated on the platform is expected to be extremely high. So people who think that, there's a little bit of supply and demand in regards to this, but it's no real big thing. I might just get into another particular project. Jasmy, no, that is true. It is extremely high. And if you have anything in which has a mechanism in place that recognizes, the importance of data, that is big in itself. When you hear the expression of "we are so early," yeah, Jasmy's been around since 2016, but that was like during a building phase. In reality, kind of like Sean the Crypto Smith, what he mentioned, most people didn't even realize about Jasmy until 2021, like late 2021, right? Like we're talking 2016, that was just like, the founding stages, if you will. So it says the number of companies participating will be expanded based on the introduction of ready-to-use IoT. I feel as though that with Jasmy, just like it shows in the white paper, it is a ready-to-use IoT, right? And they are at these beginning phases to get this done. So it says the number of individuals users will increase with the range of new products and services provided by companies, and the number of participating companies, like we mentioned before. Koozyt was one example. There's other ones. Participating companies can be expected to further increase for the purpose of utilizing data produced by individuals. Read this one more. This other part of this other paragraph says the decentralized and valuable personal data needs an environment where it can be safely and securely. Excuse me, I've been reading all day. And this platform, individuals have the right to receive appropriate rewards for providing such personal data. So again, the key takeaway here, and again, I would totally advise you guys to check out Sean the Cryptosmith's particular video, because I did an original deep dive, but I think he did a better job of like putting focus on this whole concept of what you see right here, and that is individuals, right, especially the ones in Japan, do have the right to receive appropriate rewards for providing such personal data. To put it in layman's terms, can you imagine if, for instance, when Facebook first started, that we could have the right to receive like rewards of some sort in regards to data. Now you also got to keep in time, I should say recognize that the time that we're in, right? If I think when I first heard about Facebook, it was like, 2007, something like that, maybe 2008, right? It was a little bit later to it. I just came from MySpace. But can you imagine if we had blockchain technology during that time? That would have been the tokenization, maybe. I don't know. Maybe one came out so soon. But imagine if we did have the technology. Can you imagine the tokenization of like Facebook and all that? And I know some people are going to say, well, Max already exists. There's Aptos and so on. I get it. But my point is, if they would have had some of what is mentioned right here in this white paper, to have transparent, appropriate rewards for data access permission in the data marketplace, that would have been big in itself. The average Joe Schmo citizen would have a say of where their data goes. And I know some people are going to say, well, Max, Apple technically just turn that off and so on. The point is this, there's value in this. The Japanese government definitely recognized just that. How bullish can you be on a particular project like this, especially when realizing, and I'll reiterate this real quick, and that is the demand for real-time data through IoT devices accumulated on the platform is expected to be extremely high. The number of companies participating will be expanded based on the introduction of ready-to-use IoT. Ready-to-use IoT is definitely done through Jasmy. Why? They work in the background. If Quant works in the background with Overledger, right, making things interoperable, then Jasmy works in the background in regards to what? Data democratization. At the end of the day, kind of like you build a house, is the person who's buying the house going to ask, well, I want to know where all that wood came from. Okay, does that matter? It came from Home Depot. All right, well, I want to know what kind of I don't know, screwdrivers were used. Okay, this was a Craftsman. This was a Stanley tape measure or whatever. No, nobody cares about that stuff. But the point is, it all works. Perfect example. Now, in closing, I just feel as though that some of these things definitely just need to be pointed out. And if anything, I am that much more bullish on Jasmy, because when you break it down and you look more into it, it helps you come to the understanding that with FUD, which is always going to exist, they just scratch the surface. But when you take more of your own deep dive into, for instance, Jasmy, at least for me, I come more to the conclusion that there is a lot more, I don't know, I guess you could say solid evidence to support that this is a solid project. And I think people are recognizing that. That risk to reward ratio is really, really big. And I, of course, feel as though, within the next few years, I'll be able to retire. I mean, I'm in basically about 50 some odd projects, right? Mainly focused in the ISOs and so on. But there's something about Jasmy that makes me feel as though I'm going to get to these goals of, I know it sounds like I'm a big dreamer, but millionaire status maybe sooner than some of these other particular projects. So those other projects like Quant, XRP, XLM, you name it, right? All XDC, any of those part of the quantum financial system are great, solid projects in my humble opinion. Great long-term projects. I also feel as though Jasmy is a solid long-term project, but just maybe something big ends up happening way before all this. And my big thing, and I also think it's also for a lot of you guys, it's what's going to happen by summer of this year. And that's only right around the corner. Man, it's a big time for crypto, guys. Let's just be honest. ISO 222 mandate comes out in a week. The whole thing with the Japanese government, the lifting of, the stable coins, basically was it June, something like that. Some of these other particular announcements that you saw in this deep dive video in regards to Jasmy in July and so on. So all these different time frames. What a time to be in crypto. But the key thing is this: understanding the accumulation phase. Check out the deep dive video. And if anything, there's going to be a link in regards to it, which is in up here in this particular area. So thanks again for watching. May you all have a blessed day, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.